The interception failed, Israeli officials said, and the IDF said it is under investigation. Air defense systems were activated, interceptors were fired, but the missile still got through. An Iranian ballistic missile with an estimated 500-kilogram warhead, according to the Home Front Command investigation, struck a residential neighborhood in Beit Shemesh, a city near Jerusalem, on Sunday afternoon. It hit with full force. The Home Front Command probe said the strike destroyed the synagogue above and impacted the public shelter beneath it. It badly damaged multiple homes in the surrounding area. 9 people were killed. Israeli emergency services reported dozens injured, including children. A 10-year-old girl was listed in critical condition. It was described by multiple outlets as the deadliest single strike on Israel so far in this round. Israeli media reported the Arrow system was not used against that missile, as the IDF reviewed what happened. The Arrow system is considered one of the most effective ballistic missile defense platforms in the world against exactly this type of threat. Instead, an interceptor from a different, less capable system was launched. It failed to bring the missile down. Officials speaking to Israeli media suggested Arrow could have improved the odds, but the IDF has not publicly explained the choice. The IDF said the failure remains under investigation. An official stressed there is no policy to limit the use of interceptors, and noted that Iran had so far launched fewer than half the number of missiles it fired during the first 2 days of the June 2025 war. Security officials also said Iran had adapted its tactics since the previous campaign, launching missiles from more distant locations and dispersing fire rather than relying on massive simultaneous barrages. For the defense system, this kind of drip fire is more manageable, one official said. Even if for the public it means repeated entries and exits from protected spaces. The defense is not hermetic, the official added, but for the families in Beit Shemesh, that distinction was academic. The warhead tore through the synagogue first. Then it drove into the public bomb shelter underneath. The Home Front Command investigation said the shelter met safety standards. Most people inside the shelter at the moment of impact survived, but others did not. The missile carried a 500-kilogram warhead. No civilian shelter is engineered to survive a direct hit from that magnitude. Jerusalem District Police Chief Deputy Commissioner Avshalom Peled said that as far as he knew, the majority of those killed had been inside the shelter when its roof collapsed. Officials said many of the fatalities were in or near the shelter area, with others caught outside as they tried to reach cover. The distance to protection was only 30 to 50 meters. Authorities and Israeli media named the victims, including 3 teenage siblings from the Baitan family. Israeli media reported a mother and daughter were among those killed, including a volunteer medic whose emergency vest was found buried in the rubble. She had gone to the shelter with her children. 2 of them were rescued alive and taken to a Jerusalem hospital. Israeli media also reported a mother and her adult son among the dead. Gavriel Baruch Ravach, whose father had previously donated funds to build the very synagogue that was destroyed by the missile. And Oren Katz. David Lev, a volunteer rescue worker who was one of the first on the scene, described it simply, "A very bad scene," he said. They were working to check if anyone was still stuck under the broken walls. Recovery crews moved through the site on Monday. Footage from the scene showed excavators pulling charred remains of vehicles from piles of concrete. Multiple homes in the compound were devastated by the blast and shockwave. The area looked less like a neighborhood and more like a demolition site. Amihai Eliyahu, Minister of Heritage, and National Security Minister Ben Gvir visited the impact zone. Shahaf, a local resident, described the moment of impact. He and his wife were leaving the house with their twin girls. The public shelter was roughly 30 to 50 meters away. They had just stepped outside when the blast wave threw them backwards. "Everything here is destroyed," he said. "All our cars here are totaled. I would say the whole neighborhood is ruined." Then he added one line that defined the randomness of war. "By luck," he said, he did not manage to reach the shelter in time. The shelter where others died. The IDF said its preliminary findings indicated that the Home Front Command's early warning system functioned as intended. Alerts were activated in Beit Shemesh ahead of the sirens, which also sounded, but questions remained. Residents questioned whether the warning window was long enough, even as the IDF said alerts functioned as intended. The warning window can be brutally short with ballistic missiles, turning even a short distance to shelter into a race. Some of those killed were on their way to the shelter when the missile hit directly. Shelters are not always nearby, and air raid sirens could sound at any moment without certainty that the next one will be the last. The timing was not random. Iran increased its volume and pace of ballistic missile attacks toward Israel on Sunday after officially acknowledging the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was killed in the opening moments of Operation Roaring Lion on Saturday morning, killed in the opening strikes according to Iranian and international reporting. Iran confirmed his death later, and the pace of salvos intensified afterward. When the coordinated retaliatory barrages began, the scale was comparable to the worst rounds of the June 2025 war. Sirens sounded across the country from the Galilee to the Negev, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, Beersheba. The Jordan Valley. Drivers stopped inside highway tunnels in central Israel to take cover. Israel said the Homefront Command mobilized about 20,000 reservists and handled roughly 65,000 hotline calls in 24 hours. In some areas, residents were instructed to remain in shelters until further notice. Elsewhere, during the same barrage, Israeli media reported a warhead landed in an open area not far from Jerusalem's Old City. In Beersheba, 19 people were injured after a separate missile impact. A school roof was damaged in central Israel. Shrapnel tore through a high-rise apartment building in the north, penetrating from the 20th floor and coming to rest on the 14th. In Tel Aviv, the IDF confirmed that the strike on Saturday night that killed a Philippine caregiver named Marianne Velasquez de Vera was a direct missile hit, not interceptor fragments. She was injured while helping her patient reach safety and died on the way to the hospital. Tel Aviv city officials said dozens of buildings were damaged. One was declared uninhabitable, and more than 200 residents were evacuated to hotels. The IDF confirmed that impact was a direct missile hit, not interceptor fragments. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, told Al Jazeera that the killing of Khamenei would make the confrontation more complex and dangerous. "We have no restrictions or limits in defending ourselves," he said. A 40-day mourning period was announced. An IDF spokesperson accused Iran of deliberately targeting civilians, a charge Tehran rejects as it claims it targets military sites. And the missiles kept coming. The IDF said Iran retains a large missile stockpile and continues producing more, without providing verifiable figures. During the 12-day war in June 2025, Iran launched more than 500 missiles at Israel. Israel destroyed around half of Iran's missiles and launchers over those 12 days, eventually reducing the daily volume from 200 to around 10. This time, the pace of salvos in the first 48 hours was already comparable to the worst rounds of that earlier conflict. For the residents of Beit Shemesh, the war did not arrive on a map or in a headline. It arrived on a Sunday afternoon, in a neighborhood where the shelter was close enough to see from the front door, but too far to reach in time. Where a paramedic ran toward the place, she was trained to save people and died inside it. Where a father's donated synagogue became his son's grave. Where surviving by luck meant failing to reach the shelter where others did not survive at all.